I'm Kaj Arnö, Executive Chairman of MariaDB Foundation, and I have the pleasure to chat today with Frank Karlitschek, founder and CEO of Nextcloud. Welcome, Frank.
Thanks, Doug, for having me.
Sure. So for those unfamiliar, what really is Nextcloud?
Yeah, so Nextcloud is a collaboration suite. So it's software that you can use to work together over the internet with other people. But of course, going to use it for private life too. And it doesn't have to be work. But it's collaboration. It's very similar to Microsoft 365, very similar to Google Workspace, Zoom, Dropbox, Slack, and so on. With the main difference to all of them what I mentioned is open source. So it's basically the only solution that's open source, 100%, and it can run wherever you want, like on-premise or wherever you choose. So it's basically the digital sovereign European open alternative to these proprietary other products.
Cool. So speaking of work, how does MariaDB fit into that picture? Do you use it for production, or how do you use it?
Yeah, of course. So the thing is that, as I said, we are this collaboration suite, basically doing the front end, but obviously we are standing on the shoulders of giants. So we use a lot of open source components, and the database is a very important one. So we rely on an SQL database, and we support many different ones, but the favorite is MariaDB. So we use this ourselves for our own instance, but it's also the one that we recommend to our customers and users.
So why is that? Why is MariaDB the choice rather than, say, MySQL?
Good question. So, I mean, there are lots and lots of reasons. I mean, there are technical reasons. So we're really happy with the features and the performance of MariaDB, and also how easy it is to upgrade, and just the stability and everything around it. But I think as important, maybe even more important, is that the philosophy behind it is very compatible with what we do. It's also 100% open source, as we do. It's run by a small business making their money with happy customers, same as we do. It has the whole European digital sovereignty spirit behind it. It's open for the community. So we really feel that it's a solution that fits very well our philosophy too.
So you underline here open source, and you're a long time open source advocate. So both on a work part professionally and also personally, why do you support open source software?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm a bit older already, so I did software development since the 90s, technically since the 80s even. And it was at a time where the internet did not really exist, not in the current form. Basically, you had your computer. I had my little IBM PC compatible computer, and there was my software in it. It was open source and did all the development and tinkered around with everything. And for me, this was computing. And open source is a very cool component to it, because you're just in control of like everything. You can really read the source code, you can understand how it is and how everything works. And for me, this was just a natural thing. And later with the internet, or more specifically cloud computing, these freedoms were taken away from us, because the software is somewhere else running. You cannot really know what it's doing. You cannot look into it. You cannot tinker with it. And this was also basically the motivation that I started Nextcloud, because I thought that, okay, this software that's like so important for our lives needs to be really in our control, basically how it was in the past. And yeah, having something open source again gives you the freedom to start it, to play with it, to keep your digital life under control. So the term open source again exists for many, many years, since the 90s. But nowadays we have this new term, digital sovereignty, which I think, especially if you talk with politicians, explains everything a little bit better, because at the end, the important part about open source digital sovereignty is not the software license. That's just a small component. The important part is the amount of control and freedom and independence it gives you. And this is why I'm a big fan of open source and what you do, and Nextcloud too, of course.
So let's get to this digital sovereignty as well, but you're underlining two words here, control and freedom. They're sort of a bit of an opposite of each other. So you have to be in control and you have to have freedom from dependence on others. So I understand that you are supporting open source foundations, including MariaDB Foundation. What motivates you to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are two important pillars in the open source communities. One is our companies like Nextcloud or MariaDB, which has customers and employs developers in producing open source software, but there are also foundations. I think the open source world really needs these foundations. I myself was, or I'm still part of the KDE Foundation, for example, and I was a board member for quite some time, where I also contributed a little bit to this ecosystem. And I think this is just important pillars in the open source world, and can give you, for example, the safety that a trademark is in safe hands, or that there is a way for people to donate, and this can be then given back to the community by doing travel support, for example. Foundations can do advocacy work, of course, can be political work, as it is very important nowadays. So I think foundations are really, really important for our world, and this is why I'm really happy to also support the MariaDB Foundation here.
Cool. So let's now zoom to Europe. So what's your view on this concept of digital sovereignty, and what's the EU role in shaping this digital infrastructure?
Yeah. So as I said earlier already, I think digital sovereignty is something that is very, very important. Computing and all our digital devices, they are no longer just something that exists on the side. They're really controlling our lives. They know everything about us, and this is why it's really important that this is done in a democratic, in a nice, trustworthy, free way. And in cloud computing, as we all know, a lot of people rely on proprietary cloud services running on other continents, which is problematic. First of all, that organizations have access to this data that are not democratically elected, at least not by us. In Europe, you cannot really look inside, you cannot really learn, you cannot innovate. So if you're a new startup here, it's really hard in Europe to do this without relying on US cloud services. So this really comes with tons and tons of problems here. And this dependency is like a problem for everybody in the world, but I think we in Europe, we see this now extra clearly, because we don't have a lot of open source companies or cloud service companies at all in Europe. I mean, MariaDB and Nextcloud are some of the few exceptions here. And then we see this dependency. And of course, then we see now with the latest administration in the US, also how this kind of digital dependencies can be used for, negotiations or blackmailing or just switching of services for people you don't like. So this whole situation is really critical. And in Europe, we really have to, if we care about our democracy, as we should, I think, should invest into it and become more digital sovereign. Yeah.
So I think you're combining very practical, pragmatical things with ideological and thoughts of principle like democracy. So I'd like to say here that MariaDB Foundation is now actively building its EU presence. And if it were not so hot today, this would be the moment in which I would dress into this hoodie to have a symbol of it. So our May board meeting decided to relocate our foundation from Delaware to Finland. So formally, in that sense, we are a bit of a newcomer in the EU. I'm not entirely sure where we should begin on this one. So what would you recommend?
I mean, I don't think you're a newcomer. I mean, you're one of the best well-known databases in the world. I mean, I don't think you're new to Europe, but of course the foundation is new. I get it. I think you really did this decision at a very interesting, very good moment in time, because there's really a movement growing here in Europe. There are lots of initiatives around Eurostack, for example, which is basically an idea to strengthen like the local IT industry here, and again to give us digital sovereignty. So you really arrived here at the right time. I would advise that you get involved in the political discussions that are happening. There are a lot of discussion on the national levels, but also in Brussels from the Commission level. I think this is something where your voice is really, really important. And of course, like all the events that are happening, right? All these conferences are happening. I think for me, this is always a good thing to show up there and have conversations and to collaborate. I think we as European organizations need to collaborate more. This is also why I'm really happy to support you.
Excellent. Yeah, so thank you, Frank, for that. So I have a bit of a summary question. You've already answered most of these things, I think. It's a final concluding question. So what does a thriving European open source ecosystems look like? And how can we be part of that in a nutshell?
Yeah, so this is actually a very good question, because sometimes you hear people saying that, we just need a European digital Silicon Valley. We need we need European hyperscalers. We need basically copy everything that we know from the US. I don't think so. I think we have some strengths here in Europe. For example, there's not really a clear capital in Europe. We have it's a very diverse continent with different cultures, languages, and I think we should celebrate that. So I don't think we should have one big European Microsoft or something, or one big European AWS. But I'm really a big fan of a more diverse situation where we have lots and lots of organizations, companies providing different components of an IT stack, like as you do with the database and as we do with the collaboration suite, but having more of those companies and foundations, and also strengthens the relationship between them, that we're actually working closer together. So this would be my vision. I don't want to have one gigantic company or 5 companies as it is in the US that rule everything. I don't think this is healthy. Actually, I don't think it's even healthy for the US. But I think having a more broader ecosystem of organizations like yours and ours and many others, and that are healthy, that are working together, and together we provide a great user experience, great products to our customers. So this would be my vision.
So diversity is a strength of Europe, and it should be a strength of the open source ecosystem in Europe as well. Exactly. Really good concluding words. So thank you, for Frank Karlitschek. This was a great interview.
Thanks a lot.
The MariaDB Foundation is the global contact point for collaboration on MariaDB server. Our work is made possible thanks to the support of our sponsors.